listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
Everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Well, we have quite a bit to talk about today. I just found out about Tom Petty. We saw that in the chat for Grizz. Mentioned it, and yeah, rest in peace. That's not good news, but yeah, we're going to be, we have some transmissions from Andronicus. We have transmissions from Rhodan and Andrew, which is Andronicus's self in the past, and some Meetis, of course, and other information. And I was gonna make this a wonderful light break because we get so much information all the time, and we're always, discussing different things that are pretty intense. And I thought this week we would do a tea discussion on the second hour. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to be interesting. It should be very interesting. But, yeah, I just want to give a little, shout out to all those Tom Petty fans and say, yeah, it's kind of sad that he passed. And also, I wanted to let you all know that we're going to have a Zoom room today after the show. So if anyone wants to join us, then please do so afterwards and come in and join us in the Zoom room. And we'll post the link on by the second hour. Also, so we're going to have Rajesh, who's going to be joining us for tea later on. And not to ignore a big event that happened, I don't know exactly when it happened, yesterday, in Las Vegas. What appears to be a false flag event, however, a terrible shooting, and we're just trying to figure out, because I have some friends that, I have a friend that is claiming that some of her friends got shot. We're actually, harmed by this. So, I don't know. It sounds really strange. And, JP, you said you heard about it as well, correct?
Yeah, well, I've been watching, just watching what Facebook has said, and a contact who's a member of the Johnny Webb. Do you want to bring Johnny Webb in?
Sure.
It's like he might have some news. Right, let's just see. Hello, Johnny Webb. You're on. Oh, you're not on there. Oh, there we go. Hello, Johnny Webb. You're on air with Jessica Morocco on Answers for the Universe from the Universe. Hello.
Oh, good evening to you both. I didn't realise I was live, but yeah, it's nice to be with you both. And
nice to meet you too, Johnny. I don't think we've ever met before, but welcome to my show.
Hi, well, thank you for letting us come aboard here. I'm Johnny Webb. I used to work with Dr. J Radio Live, but it's gone off air for a while because he was a bit sick, and we're waiting for him to recover. But yeah, nice to be here. I wanted to have a quick word with JP, but I won't be rude. I'll say thank you for letting us come aboard.
Oh, okay.
We were just speaking briefly, Johnny. We were talking about what appears to be a false flag. Did you have any info on that, or you have any insights?
Well,
on what happened in Las Vegas?
Well, do you know what? I've been asleep today. I did a late shift, and I finished about 11 o'clock this morning, and I've been up about an hour and a half, and I haven't actually put the news on. So can you just brief me quickly, and I'll tell you how?
Well, a lot's happened.
Yeah, amazing how we sleep and all sorts of things happen while we're sleeping.
You're on another timeline now, Johnny, basically. There's just been a massive shooting of at least 50 people have been killed in a shooting at a country and western concert in Las Vegas. Tom Petty has just died. I think it was a brain hemorrhage or something. Yeah, well, we haven't heard about Nibiru yet today, but any other news, Jess?
I think that's, sufficient. It's enough, there's definitely a lot of things going on, and it's shaking things up. I mean, Las Vegas is a pretty crazy city anyhow. I've been there before, and one can never tell, what exactly is going to happen. the individual, I guess, some woman was shouting, saying that everyone was going to die, I guess, in Dabu 7 said that, and then Jason Aldean, I guess, is the name of the guy, which sounds like I don't know if it's a real name or a fake name, and then seemed to have an artillery of ammunition from the way that the video sounds. But I mean, here again, and it's hard to tell whether these things are a fabrication or not. But some people that I know that are really good, very honest people, and have attested to the fact that a few of her friends actually got shot, or a friend of her friends. So it's coming from legitimate resources that these people are actually getting hurt.
Well, I know that obviously with times like this, the output is to try and make as much fear as possible. And all I can suggest to people is that whilst you give away your subconscious thoughts to fear from your conscious, then you'll manifest that fear continually. So I would suggest that you don't listen to the media in the sense, obviously it's going to be everywhere, it's going to be in the papers, everyone's going to chat about it, but just tell your subconscious that, in a sense, let me find the truth for self, and ask self the answer, not to look exterior. And what it will do is it will calm you and calm your thoughts. And as I say, if you can control your thoughts, it's not to be naive and dismissive of information or, sort of cognitive, but it's to literally not allow that fear of worry, because it's contagious fear, not allow that to come into you, into your being, to put it off, to allow yourself to find a buffer zone between the outside world and your inner feelings. So if you can put that off and dismiss it and allow the subconscious to rebuild what is true for you, then I believe that can help a lot of people.
Thank you, Johnny. I mean, that's great advice, and that's exactly what I feel. I mean, we cannot be, they're trying to get us in a point of hysteria and uncertainty and in a point of fear. So we need to just keep balanced and calm, and whatever type of manipulation is going on, we're not going to give in to it. And, your fear, as Cafe Racer says, your fear is dependent on you for its survival. So, that's a good saying. And we're going to just keep strong. But what I was going to do is we might as well, let's give it back to those in power that are trying to get us into, a system of fear and immobilization. And, we're going to play that song from the Talking Heads, Psycho Killer, and, not let it bother us. And that's it. We're going to go to a song, and we will be back. Thank you, Johnny, for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me on, and God bless everyone. Don't worry, everyone, all right?
Okay, so are we back? Yep. That was Talking Heads with Psycho Killer. I mean, that song, you know what? I mean, I always wondered, why did he sing that song? Now I know. It's almost like they know that this kind of stuff is going to be happening.
There's stuff going on. Well,
yeah.
It was like I was saying in the background here is, I played in a band a few years ago, and it was one of the best songs. It was the song that everybody got up to and jumped and leapt around like a psycho. So it's really embedded in our psyches, if you like.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this, it's the term going postal, because we had postal workers going nuts and going off on people out here for a little while, and in the U.S. It's just there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of things going on, and road rage. We have a lot of issues. People need to just pull back and relax. This is undue pressure from, the way that things are being run, our government's, pressure to just to live financially. It's difficult for a lot of people. A lot of people, get on these highways and it's packed with cars, and people, I'm hearing of, commutes over here that are, a couple hours long, that should only take 20 minutes. I mean, just some really crazy stuff that really puts people on edge. And, we just want people to relax. Yeah. You have to figure out another way if it's getting to you.
That's right.
Do something different. Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's time. It's pressure of time. We don't have enough time to do all the things that we're supposed to be doing, and everything gets stressed, and you don't get enough sleep, and because you don't get enough sleep, you can't focus right, so you don't have enough time to do all the things you needed to do, and it gets worse, and, you know, that spirals down. So, it's a really, fabulous thing to happen, though, because it really focuses you as to what is important and what can I let go of, because there's not enough time for it. You have to make choices. You have to make decisions. You have to make life choices. And I think this is the inner function of all of this stress, is to squeeze us so hard that we do what we are, that is like the most necessary thing for us to do to exist.
But this is the reason why I wanted to do a tea time, because essentially sometimes we need to just stop and take a break. And that's exactly what I'm going to invite all of you to participate in this. When we get into the second hour, go and grab your cup of tea. You want to have coffee or mate or whatever it is.
We do the Andromedan tea ceremony.
Learn to take the break.
The Andromedan tea ceremony. I can talk about the Chinese tea ceremony, actually. It's something I learned about a few years ago.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. Let's talk tea later. Over tea.
Yep.
I get 2 cups of tea. I've come prepared.
I got my builder's tea now.
Have you? Are you getting into it?
Well, yeah, I love like all of a sudden I just feel like I need that builder's tea.
Yeah.
Because it feels more substantial than the herbal tea.
That's right.
And the regular American tea and the Twinings, English breakfast, Irish breakfast, whichever one, it seems stronger, more substantial. So
Yes.
if I want a little bit of a kick in the butt, I'll go.
It's got lots of tannins in it. It's got that brown stuff in it. And, it just, that's why they give it to builders. That's why builders want it, because you need something that has got some grit in it. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's got body. It's opaque.
Just might want to run a few laps around the neighborhood and climb a few trees. I've got my builder's tea.
Yeah.
All right. So we better get into this. And also, this is one of those shows where you're probably going to want to listen a few times to hear the content that's coming out of Andronicus and Andrew today. It's pretty, packed with information. So, you might want to listen and re-listen to understand what's going on. And I'll try to, dissect it a little bit and explain it afterwards. But yeah, let's go right into Andronicus.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
In 1974, I opened up the door to the Pleiadians to enter your world. There is one that associates himself with Maximus Rufus because of the power he wielded. His name is Jonas, but he was not from the Maximus Rufus, but a power-hungry Pleiadian instead. Leaving the surname Ptah behind, he ventured off into new alliances and further gained power in the netherworlds and the depths of the hollow earth and the galactic frontier. Jonas also spent time with valiant Thor, where there was a suspicion of a mind meld or integration into one soul. I had warned him of his thirst for power. As the females searched for celebrity and fame, he searched for galactic dominance. You have spoken to him many times, but had no idea what the repercussions of that would mean. Now you see that he has locked you into a space, held captive by his minions and trainees, those that are learning to be as he is. As I have shown you before, the time of removal is when I bring your attention to it. I'm helping you get out of this paradigm that I accidentally locked you all into. They did not belong in your reality in the first place, so I'm directly pulling them out. As I had warned them before of their voyeuristic behaviors and exploitations, they had profaned everything that had beauty and true love. I have come to the realization of their lack of consciousness and devoid of responsibility whatsoever. Jonas has been captured and taken prisoner. The rest of them will be presented before the galactic courts. I had permission to allow them through the gate because all species should be tested as to how they would behave amongst a less aware species, such as humanity. The question at hand would always be, are they here to oversee with kindness and justice and truth, or will they abuse the situation and take advantage of a species less aware? We had talked in the past about the Vincala or the reptilians, the grey species and those that many find contrary. What is hard for many to imagine is that the good species would do anything wrong. They had let everyone down. There was so much promised them. There was so much promise for them as a species in the role of leadership that now needs to be reviewed. Of course, the Andromedans and others will be taking on that role instead, and the humans might be joining us in their leadership as opposed to being trained in the galactic environment. Let's not forego the lessons here, as has been upsetting for everyone. The paradigm is under deconstruction that the 12th dimensional Pleiadians created. We have to remove it carefully and gently so none of the innocent will be affected by it. This transmission is now complete. Wow.
Yeah.
So go on.
It starts off that Andronicus seems to be the one that can open the door, and assuming that they were a species with good intentions towards humanity, they were allowing them to come in and to assist us. Of course, not like, I want to specify for those that are saying, she doesn't like they don't like the Pleiadians, and it's not the case. They had the opportunity. First of all, these are the 12D Pleiadians. And these are the ones that are messing around in the Eka as well and causing wars, in addition to others that are causing wars there. And there's a lot of misrepresentation, just as Valiant Thor did as well, coming from the Venus faction. And I'm sure we're going to find out more as we go on. I've had problems with the Regilians also. So that there's all this information that's starting to come on the forefront. Now, there are some good Pleiadians on the higher levels, maybe 16 dimension or whatever, and they're not doing this stuff. And what appears to be happening is that they were coming through, and then they were, assuming that humans are naive and not aware that they were taking advantage of the situation. Some of the Pleiadian women, it sounded like, wanted to be famous, and then they were kind of spying on people, and that's the voyeuristic part, where they were kind of intruding and interfering with relationships and other things, very insensitive to a true love. When I say true love, even like a love with family, a love with friends, romantic love, the whole gamut. It seems like they're lacking a level of consciousness regarding this area, and not fully supporting, only to their gain. As we've kind of had a series of different things that have come up through Andronicus and their involvement, more and more he's revealing to us, and now he's, confessing. I think he kind of stepped out when I was asking him questions last week. This time
he's got awkward, yeah. But he was very businesslike in this one, hasn't he?
Well, in this one, he's kind of forward and saying, all right, it might be like, finishing a report or something, because essentially they captured Jonas, so they're probably tracking his behavior and really didn't pay attention to him because of the bigger stuff that was going on. It's like if a city is in a riot mode and you have gangs or groups of people that are, purely defiant and they're obvious and they're robbing banks or whatever. Those are the ones you focus on, not the ones that are, the small arsonists, the ones that are going and doing petty theft. So eventually, you find that, then you might even find that there's, someone that's like kind of white collar and he's doing something else here, and then there's someone that's blue collar and he's getting kickbacks from this, and then you start finding all these other things underneath. You're like, whoa, these were supposed to be the good people, but they took advantage while the bad ones were doing this. So it's sort of, a situation of that nature. and some kind of merging that happened with Jonas. Now, and I was pretty shocked because I had a couple transmissions of Jonas, and he seemed good. He seemed really good, and people are going to say, "Oh, you got deceived." Yeah, I'll say it. I mean, sometimes they come in and they have information and they tell you something, and you think, "Oh, that's fine. All right, I don't know why you're telling me, but you wanted to interact with me." But maybe there was another agenda there, and I always think that I had some problems and things would come up after I talked to Jonas, but now I'm looking back and I'm pretty sure that happened. But at the time I didn't put the two together. And him, kind of, mind meld thing happening with him and Valiant Thor, I can't imagine what the combination of that did, but it probably wasn't anything good. So. Yeah.
Valiant Thor needs strengthening.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's seen Dark Skies, the TV series Dark Skies. What happens when they need strengthening is they get an extra kind of squiddly that comes out of their mouth into the other guy's mouth. And,
Okay. I see. Well, essentially, yeah. This is something that they do, I guess.
Yeah.
And the other thing is they were aligning with this he was aligning with this Maximus Rufus, wanting to access some of the power of that too, even though he was not actually one of the participants in it, was not originally from the first revolution. So, revolution of humanity. I'll say that, for those, just as a reminder, the Maximus Rufus is there were two, with the pre-Adamic race, that whole group, there was more than one race. Humanity was there, but there were giants and other things there. And then there was a flood, and then you have another revolution of humanity that comes in. And the whole thing with, Noah coming in on a boat, which, then he started calling it the Maximus Rufus because it was taking the original, group of humanity as a pre-Adamic group and then bringing them into the second revolution of humanity. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. But yeah, a lot of just, things coming up.
Yeah, there's a big universe kind of opening up. Every time we do one of these shows, the universe kind of gets bigger in some ways.
Yeah.
It's become multiverse and omniverse and all that stuff.
But seeing how it all ties in, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're having a look at what's funny? What I've been thinking, they've all got these Latin names, Maximus Rufus. It's very, Gluteus Maximus. It's all very Latin,
Well, the reason for that, I don't know if this is the reason or how this worked out, but apparently they came in, when they stepped in, I believe is the first time they stepped in, was through Rome. And and actually there's history regarding this, and someone actually I think Patty Broussard pointed it out to me and said, hey, this is a part of our history when that explains this army that showed up in our history that we didn't quite know about. And I believe it was around 30 AD or, let me see if, 35 to 86 BC. Yeah, 35 to 86 BC is what she said. And I guess if you look in history, there was an incident where an army showed up on boats. And so I believe they came over on the Rhodan Bridge and then just, transformed however they needed to and showed up as an army and started integrating everything. So, and that's on our history. So I didn't know that. I just knew that about the story and how they came in, and then, we started to trace it and identify, who some of the players were. And I believe that Michael was Quintus Maximus, which was, you see the name Maximus throughout everything, and then, Victus, there was just all these different names that kept coming up, and we were like, wow, this is absolutely
Andronicus
amazing.
is another one.
Yes. Andronicus actually had to step in at that time. And he was actually a good ruler, But we're gonna hear more about it when we talk to Andrew. Now, Andrew is the Andronicus from way, way back in the past, and it looks like he's coming to us in multiple time slots. Let's say, way in the past, sometimes in the future, in 4,000 something in the future, the year. I don't know where he's coming from in the time of Andrew. He's calling himself Andrew Andronicus, it's Andy.
Exactly, we started calling him
John. He comes in as John.
Yeah, yeah.
John the scientist, in the future, so. Either way, so why don't we go to Andrew next? We'll get more information.
I want to talk to you about Malcolm and Byron. Byron was the founder of the Baha'i faith and other belief systems. Malcolm was also known as Mar Ku. He was the initiator of high divination and reptilian mind control techniques and sorcery. Typically known in Revolution 1, where levitators would also engage in some of the Zoroastrian practices, molecular manipulation practices, there was a strange relationship between Michael and Byron and Malcolm. Michael recruited Byron and Malcolm to join him for the imparts to Revolution 2. They became an alliance of the power of threes, the witnesses to the power of eights, and the coalition to the power of six. In time, this will all make sense to you. The manipulation was so in-depth that it would boggle the minds of the most astute learners of modern-day humanity. There were geometric forms, complex calculations, and number systems unheard of in your day and age. The sequences and series of number alterations within matrices of matrices left your current system forever off kilter. If we were to do a reset, it would undoubtedly create a cataclysmic event in the galactic field. If we do a step back in time to correct what happened in Revolution 2, intrusion of the Maximus Rufus, much of the progression of humanity would be erased. In part, similar to the doses of poison adding to the immunity of the poison, the contamination of the Maximus Rufus and corrupted thinking of Revolution 1 had created an immunity similar to a virus to Revolution 2. Therefore, the vaccine of the poison creates a dose of strength, but not literal poison of elixir, but the poison of the mind and the thought processes based upon corruption. The exposure to the corruption on Revolution 1 maximum.
It's time.
I need to take bigger breaths for this. Yeah.
Okay.
The exposure to the corruption on Revolution 1 Maximus Rufus beings made Revolution 2 more resilient, more expansive in thinking, and even wiser. However, we still need to remove the grids. Not the original grids. Not the
Oh, go ahead.
Not the original grids where consciousness thrives, but the overlay of control systems that are being gently erased and no longer imposed upon the innocent. Those grids were set to control Revolution 1, brought in by Maximus Rufus. They were not supposed to exist in Revolution 2 of present humanity.
It appears to me from what you're saying that we need to clean up some of the damage that Maximus Rufus did by integrating into our present-day system.
That is correct. But you are not required to do all of the corrections. We will support and assist on the most integral molecular part of time-space. No need to worry about these things. It will be done properly and gradually.
There is an early point in history where the Maximus Rufus first appeared in Rome, and historians said boats appeared with people for which they could not explain the origin of. This was an unknown army. The question is it the original point of entry where the other points, or were there other points of entry in our history?
Yes, during the Byzantine Empire, they jumped in again to alter history. They jumped in during the time of Constantine and Quintus Maximus, which was Michael. Julius Caesar had the personality of 5 men. Each one took their turn of using him for the means of persuasion and the installment of systems not familiar with mankind. Each one of these installments had grids attached to them that bound humanity. These are your government, judicial laws, international treaties, and the one world order, or in their terms, one world unification. The Maximus Rufus was the substrata system that precedes your concept of the Cabal. Your monetary system was infused with metallurgic coveting. This is the reason why your monetary system is so corrupt. Its foundation and basis was integrated with the Zoroastrian Revolution 1 magical arts.
Are you saying we are subservient to the artificers of divination from the pre-Adamic race that no longer resides here?
That is in part correct. Some of them still reside here and have found other ways to mask their intentions and manipulations with their masterful magical money that only they can benefit from. Until now. Today, I took Malcolm's power away completely. He will no longer burden you or humanity again. Michael is also losing power. But Byron still remains to be a problem. He has heavily integrated your belief systems. Enough insight for now. I'll allow you to ruminate or digest this information. Pay attention to Rumi, the teacher. I see what you mean about having to listen to this a few times.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
A lot of different things that happened.
Heavy dense. But, so this is the origin of the Cabal is actually Maximus Rufus.
Yeah, well, I guess the roots of it come from the pre-Adamic race. And their corruption that was brought over, already from a group of people that were there and just reapplied it to you, and they try to wipe it out. They tried to have more of a clarity and instruction for humanity that eliminated a lot of this corruption, and instead they brought their belief system constructs, political structures, all that other stuff over here. I mean, essentially, the U.S. and many others, go back to the way that Rome ran their nation, governments and the political setup and organization, the way it was aligned. So, and of course we got some from Greece as well. So it's very possible that they jumped over there too. But I'm seeing that it has a lot of connections to this Roman Empire, which could explain why it was so powerful. You have these beings from the pre-Adamic race coming in, and then supporting this system, and then kind of living off of it and reinterpreting and reintroducing some of the old methods. And not to say that these other civilizations preceding that weren't corrupt, but for some reason that appears to be their entry point. And you can see that they jumped around that area quite a bit, and I'm sure that they then stepped back and probably came forward. Like, I don't doubt that they're here, they're present now.
Well,
but
that's who is calling the Cabal, and maybe Dick Cheney is Malcolm, or you know what I mean.
I believe I met someone that was Malcolm, and that someone that was over in what we call our witch city here in Massachusetts, Salem, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible.
Yep. They exist in multiple bodies. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that was so good. That was so interesting. That he said that Julius Caesar was occupied by 5 different spirits.
Yeah.
So
it's
this
all,
is
them.
Yeah.
Them, and then 2 others. It sounds like.
Yeah. So some of them say, "Hey, let's give me the Xbox controls," because it was probably like very much like that,
Yeah. And you wonder, why was Julius Caesar so, he's very prominent and, probably brought in a lot of different things.
Yeah. So that's what they mean when they talk about a puppet. So,
yeah.
it's, well, here's the thing, when people sell their soul to the devil to be a rock star, they all say, I walk on stage and I'm a different person.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're possessed. And that's, they're being possessed by the devil in that moment. Because that's the deal. So the devil
devil has many names.
That's right.
This is what we're finding out. There's not like just one being that's called the devil. I mean, in my opinion, there are
it's a team.
A lot of bad ones out there. It's a team, definitely. Yeah.
Team devil.
Yeah, I guess you need to know who you're dealing with, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
So, why don't we go to Baylord next? And Baylord even brings in, he brings in some more as well.
Let me go and get my water of life. I have a friend who makes decoctions of chaga. Have you heard of chaga?
Oh yeah, chaga is a mushroom tea.
That's right. Now, he is, like Nancy was on Shanghai, he's with chaga. It's just incredible. And he's a lovely fellow. And, so I've been drinking this stuff and it doesn't taste nice, to be honest. And he says, oh no, but he said that they used to put that in the whiskey. Rather than burning it or using old things, they used to put the chaga in the whiskey, which made it the water of life.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the,
it's supposed to be really good for you.
Yeah, it's very nice.
And, it gets rid of cancer and all sorts of stuff. I don't know if it gets rid of it, but prevents it.
Well, you can't say anything like that, but, it's very good for people who are suffering from things like that. Let's put it that way. It makes them feel better. We mustn't, otherwise we
we're not. I'm not selling anything here.
That's right. So, and well, here I am. I'm in the north of Scotland where this stuff grows off the birch trees. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh. So, talking of local phenomena. I decided to step into your reality to help you. It appears that Leonard Krum was hiding by you, so I began to follow what you were doing. In the process, I discovered and captured Leonard Krum in Oklahoma. He was hiding there with a great deal of torment. I see he made many people suffer and stopped the flow of two realities. One is what you refer to as your revolution of humanity in the first phase, and then after the flood in the second phase. He was the etheric bridge between both civilizations. As soon as he created this bridge, he then went on to contaminate his toxicity in the parallels as well as alternate realities and so forth. I traced him back in time and found a grand ship with a grand mast and golden hostess for the rows. I saw men stuffed in the base of the ship like a trapped nest of rats. The men's skin were tanned and their hair was blonde. They were rugged in strength, but had the beauty of angelic ones. Each wore a garment with a cross in front, not as your Celtic symbol, but as what you refer to as an X. They swore in two tongues. The language was confused as they seemed to not know for sure what language or culture they belonged. They ate a grain so rare but bountiful in a sense that it sustained their strength and energy as rode for hours without being weary. I smelled the sweat and the pain of these men. Sorrow upon sorrow befell them as the creature Dionysus sat above in control. He neither raised a finger or did labor at all.
Why did they obey him? He was only one.
This is when he became Leonard Krum. His eyes grey dark as a starless night. His head grew heavy and larger.
A mutation?
He'd been tainted by the mutants from the first revolution of time, and it brought it over with him. It wasn't evident, but he continued to mutate slowly, because he was once connected to the divine. The stickiness of the black goo, you call it. Gets into the blood and races and rages like a furious battle within.
So the black goo came from the first group of humans.
Not particularly by humans, but from the first revolution of the time when humanity existed, before the Great Flood.
Where did it come from then?
The bogs, child. The great bogs of discarnate beings in a pool of ooze.
Did Dionysus bring the ooze back in the form of the bogs?
Aye, and an energy that is yet unseen to the human eyes. It is a living matter, and will sometimes manifest like a walking human, but a bog creature.
So you're telling me that Dionysus has the sickness, the infestation of the black goo? I'd like to hear more about the ship and the men who were trapped. Where did they come from, and why were they so submissive to him?
From what I could gather, they wanted to go home. Their home was in Revolution 1, and he brought them here thinking they were going on a journey, and then he enslaved them.
How many of them did he bring over from Revolution 1?
Billions of them. Many are not in your reality now, but some still survive here. All of them are suffering because of the hardship. So many have been brought off-world and used in slave camps. These are the humanoids that you often see imprisoned off-world. They are a hearty, long-living species and much more resilient than the humanoids of the second revolution in time.
You were saying that slavery was created in our reality by Dionysus?
That is correct.
What about Revolution 1? Did slavery occur in these societies as well?
Yes, this is an old concept of killing and conquest. A way to take territory and then further humiliate them into submission. You can see why they were destroyed. They were brutish and heartless. Soon, you won't have to worry about this anymore. Oh, I like that drum roll. It kind of gets me into the I have to put on a kind of, a skin, an animal skin kind of jacket mentally, and stand up straighter and a nip of whiskey or something.
I know.
Brings you into it. Anyway, there we go. Yeah, I haven't seen Borkum for a while. He's another hearty character.
Yeah, he is. He is.
So,
we have a short message from Rhodan. We have stormed the gates of Certopia. The land is hard and seemingly uninhabited. I want you to know that things are changing already. We are awaiting the outcome of our research here. I believe it is going to lead to further discovery. Remember, humanity, we are watching over you. But stand up and take as you will. Don't wait to take back the planet as yours. More is coming, so much more than you can imagine. Be fruitful, plentiful, and full of life, eternally. Who'd have thought that God had a Cockney accent? Anyway. He hasn't told me where the gates of Certopia is, and
right.
I thought it was interesting. It looks like it's a new place, and he said that it's seemingly uninhabited, but I have a feeling there's more to find out about that place. I could see it. It was, the ground looked pretty hard, and nothing was really growing, but it wasn't dead. So we'll find out more. But he's encouraging, I guess. Certopia.
Well, it's like Utopia and maybe Serbian. You know, it feels like Russian. You know, what's that other place?
It looked like an off-world place.
All right.
Not really sure, but it seemed like one of those places that they sort of hadn't looked at in a long time. And maybe it was inhabited by some species that you know they were concerned about, and then they're seeing it's kind of quiet. So I think that was a hint that things are getting better.
Or maybe it's an extinct civilization that they thought, all right, let's go hang out there. They've got some old buildings we can hang out, like squatting. I'm just
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we? Because we just got to go to Meetis, don't we, today?
Yeah, Meetis.
Hello, my flower. It is bittersweet at times. I lost a dear friend today. She was quite old, but you remember the time not aging, and as I bounced to and fro across the region, I often lose friends. To time. It is sad, really. There are times I look for them to be born again, return to our location as an infant. Much like you, my love. I saw you climb from the cradle and jump down without a scratch. Silly one you are. You always made me laugh. When you were just a toddler, I had to take a bit of the sparkle from your eyes so they wouldn't recognize you and confuse others with you. I know you were frustrated by this, but many bad incidences were avoided. I had seen Primus in his youth, always questioning authority in adults. He was never satisfied with the answers. That Primus, he's a fly on the wall and a debater on the spot. Getting back to my story. Yes, I saw Eliza Lemontree. She was delightful indeed. She shook the many branches of the wealthy, you see. She was bold and strong, not shallow or forlorn. I'll tell you, she had a headstrong way, but was always facing in the right direction.
Was that her real name? I really like it.
No, that was her given name from me. She would wear bright yellow flowers in a hat. Quite a jolly laugh and silly talk, but serious, very serious when she needed to be. She will be missed, actually. I'll miss her indeed. Not long ago, I lost another friend. I called him Bartholomew Spring. He had a lively step in his walk. He would join Eliza and myself with a spot of tea and biscuit and berries. So very wonderful.
Was this your Mad Hatter's group, Meetis?
Mad Hatter? I was never a hatter. I always kept my feet on the ground and never engaged in all that fanciful style making.
That's true. The story comes much later in time, I suppose. And then Meetis peered into the future and laughed a bit.
I see. Oh, so this is how you perceive me. Very well. You like the upside down and backward streams. I can provide that for you.
No, Meetis. I'm not requesting that you put me through any more riddles in confusing scenarios, but I will join you for a cup of tea.
What?
Where are the others who joined you for tea?
Oh, we had many visitors at last. Too many to count from here and there. Some came early and some came late, but never a one would sit too long when they ate.
It's true. You are a Mad Hatter indeed, Meetis.
I forgot to tell you about my friend, Ben Trine and sweet neighbour Juniper Berry, and tart Witherapple or crisp Windcastle. All of them were my friends to the end.
Wonderful. We can hold a fond memory of them today. Cheers to all of them, both in time and in spirit.
May their souls rest gently upon the earth and green grass, and may the clover grow around them in the blanket of everlasting green. Ah, right, the song. Here is a song I write for my dear Eliza Lemontree and Bartholomew Spring. Okay, have to make the second. Oh, because I need to open a new document, you see, because
yes.
Meetis is really good at opening new documents, so that it all fits on one page. There we go. So
you notice he didn't know about Alice in Wonderland. He had to go and look at it and see what I was talking about.
Oh, that's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like Lewis Carroll might have met a character very much like Meetis himself.
Or Meetis came through and did it himself.
Yeah.
Chicken or the egg again.
Exactly. Right, let's go. Bring the mic up there. So, yeah, all right. Okay. Okay, so maybe something like that. Everything's crackling today. So.
Yeah.
Now sing sweet skirts and upside down tarts. We are in the beginning of music and arts. We live amongst the jesters and flirt with their sisters and sing the night over. We rise with a cup of tea in our hands. Then gently we follow to see who still stands. We watch the great sunrise, we stare down the streetwise. We are no longer worried about what type of tea now. We sip a bit slowly, but then let the heat rise. We drink with our family, hold back the silly, until we join again. Only our friends allow us to be who we are. Only our T-tops are where we are free to be a star. The kingdom. We are content with little, my friends. We don't need money or the trouble it sends. We rest and release our true words in the air. This is our time to speak and be jolly amongst friends. La 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 la. La 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 la. La la la. We don't ever pretend. We are true to the end. La 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 la. La 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 la. La la la.
Very nice.
Well, there you go.
Okay, yeah. So, well, you know, we have some music. Fool's Garden with Lemon Tree. A little tribute to Miss Lemon Tree that Meetis was said about Nirvana, Penny Royalty, and the Kinks Afternoon Tea. So we're going to have our friend Raj come in and join us, and maybe some other guests. So stay tuned and enjoy the music. And we're live, and
Live now.
Greetings everyone. So with all this stuff going on, I think it's time for us to have some tea talk, or just at least have a cup of tea, or have whatever you feel like drinking that makes you think of tea or coffee, or, you know, I know some people that drink something completely different and that's their version of tea or coffee. But, you know, and there's all different variations. So, but we are going to have some, you know, some basic tea talk because this is just our time to relax. I think that's the point of it, and not to be specific or saying there's a right or wrong or anything like that. And, but before we get into that, I just want to do a quick reminder, that we do have, a Zoom group for the Andronicus group. Afterwards, you want to come and meet and greet and introduce yourself. And, Chaz has put the link to connect in, if you want to join us So please do so. Check in the Wolf Spirit chat room, and you'll find the link that you're looking for. And it looks like someone's knocking at the door in the background. And who is that?
Oh, actually, can I play this? This is, hello. This is, hang on, he won't shut up. This is, from the 1930s, a singer called Jack Buchanan. And this is the archetypal English tea song, if you don't mind my indulgence.
Oh, please do.
Let me just, open up the video link. There we go. And here we go.
Always gets the sore when the clock yells for everything stops for tea.
So, there you have it.
Whoa, that's awesome. Wow, I felt like I was in the 1920s or 30s. When did that come out?
That was 1932.
Yeah.
Everything stops
awesome.
for
like
tea.
one of those old, like, Motorola, or what do they call the big, records, the...
Yeah, back at Philips and things. But this is back when American men had British accents. Have you noticed? Hello? They all spoke like this. But there we go.
Before we get going, we have Raj. I just want to let you know you have to accept JP's connection on Skype if you want to connect with us.
I keep sending you the thing. I hope it's you.
Yeah.
There is only one Rajesh Parma. Yeah, so there we go.
Come on, Raj. I know you have some info for us, so come in and join us.
Spill the beans about how to make tea.
Either, gotta just come in and share the knowledge.
All right. So look, I'll join the round table I'll give you some space.
We wanted you to,
you want me to talk about how do I make tea? All right. So number one.
You said you had an argument with someone about it. We won't, it could be anyone, but,
it could be anybody, but people who like, well, here's the thing. All right. So I come from London. All right. And the way it's made, the way I'd make it, I don't know, the way I feel to make it is I take, you have a mug. Sometimes if you're feeling extra special, you can, when the kettle is boiled, you pour a little bit of hot water into the cup. Take it out, swish it out, and that warms the cup a little bit as well. So there's not so much thermal shock and you're, getting more heat in there. And then you pour boiling water straight as soon as it's boiled into the cup. And then you let it brew for a little bit. It is permitted to kind of stir it a little bit, but not to mash it. Because if you mash it, you get all the bitter tannins come out. This is where the argument came, right? Is I remove the bag and then pour the milk. But this other person, would pour the milk and then remove the bag just in case the milk was poured too much milk in it. It got too milky, so you want to make it a little bit stronger. So my method is a little more committed. I would imagine if you're taking it all the way to the kind of it's all about intent. And then you have an enjoyable cup of tea.
Interesting. In the brand, the type of tree.
Oh, right. Now, here's the thing.
So,
I live in northern Scotland, and we have soft water, as opposed to other places where we have hard water. So in sort of Yorkshire and Lancashire, there's and particularly down in South England, there's more chalk in it. It's more it's more chalky, harder water, and so the tea is you need a different blend of tea to go with that. So I use what's called Scottish blend here for the soft water, which is made by Tetley and PG. They do a Scottish brand as well. So, and local things. So there's the tea thing. I must send some to you. Have you got, what's your water like? Have you got hard water or soft water in Massachusetts?
It's hard water.
Hard.
Yeah, and we're not really tea connoisseurs. We just, we try to, there have been some tea shops, but I find that they open them up and then they don't last. And it's just not as contagious. And the people that figure out the benefits of tea, because there's so many different types of tea. There's the white tea, there's red tea, there's all this. Some of them are, I won't say medicinal, but they're really, really good for your health, and they give you a clean hit of energy, as like caffeine, as opposed to some of like the coffee, and some people are having problems with the acidity of drinking coffee. And so, a lot of people have acid reflux over here, and from the stress, and then a high acidic diet, and the coffee. We're heavy coffee drinkers, because when you need energy, the first thing you do is you go and get a coffee, and there's coffee shops on every corner. And so, and I will admit there is some addiction there.
Yeah, because this is hardcore stuff for your American coffee, isn't it? Anyway, Rajesh is now ready to join you. So here we are, and it sounds like Nick is having a motorcycle crash as we're
That's the weather.
We can say hello, Nick. How are you? Thanks for joining us too. Yeah, and Raj, you're here too as well?
Nearly here. He's 3 dots away.
Okay.
Okay, pick up, Raj. It's a stage-by-stage process here. But so there we go.
Well, why don't we let Nick?
Nick, tell us about
talk a little bit, and we'll wait for Raj to join us.
Sure. So, what's quite interesting is that I live in Lancashire, a bit north of Manchester. So sometimes our water comes from the Lake District, which is soft, and sometimes, depending on, I guess, the size of the reservoirs, sometimes it comes from closer to the Yorkshire Dales, which is hard. So we have a bit of a nightmare knowing whether it's going to be soft or hard. And the way you make the tea depends on actually what's coming out of the tap. Also, the time of day dictates really what type of tea strength I'm going to have. So if I'm going to have a tea in the morning, it'll be strong. If it's in the afternoon, it'll be quite weak. And if it's in the evening, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So I can't say there's a definitive way to make a cup of tea, but certainly you would never, ever put the milk in before you take the tea bag out. And you would never, ever put the milk in before you put the water in, because the hot water would denature the proteins in the milk, and it would taste terrible. And it's an absolute no. And I can't believe people would even think of doing that. But I see people doing that all the time. But
well,
it's
probably
really...
Americans. Americans are guilty of doing a lot of things, because I think we need to learn a little bit of the proper way of making tea, and not just it's proper, but the the best way to taste it, because tea is wonderful, but if it's made the wrong way, it's bitter, isn't it? Or
there's tastes of the tannins in the tea, and that's really, really terrible. There is actually a British standard for making tea, and there was a guy, a university academic called Len Fisher from the University of Bristol, and he wrote some academic papers about the best way to make tea, and he even won something called the Ig Nobel Prize, which is like the opposite of a Nobel Prize, reserved for academics that did research that should never ever be repeated. It has a big following. It has an enormous following, actually, and there's an academic journal associated with it called the Annals of Improbable Research. So it's something you should look up. And they have an Ig Nobel Prize ceremony every year.
a little bit of the untea, is that, or the
Ig
Nobel? All right. I see Chaz Purple said, my sister ships out 4 types of tea to me in the U.S. Tetley, Typhoon, PG Tips, and Yorkshire tea. And I have to say Yorkshire tea is the best, being from Yorkshire, of course. But I have decaf. All right, so that's Chaz's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Decaf tea?
Decaf.
Come on, lass.
It's terrible. It's
Wait a
like
minute, all right, everyone's
sacrilege.
up in arms. Jess, look what you did. And decaf as well, right? So Yorkshire.
Decaf tea, that's like vegetarian meat. How's that work? It's a paradox.
Hello?
Okay, do we have Raj here?
Hi, Jessica. It's Raj.
Hi, Raj. Well, you know what? You're the one who inspired this whole conversation today, and I just want to say thank you for joining us today and, sharing your wealth of knowledge in the area of tea. But
No, I'm not sure about that. I think JP's way more knowledgeable than I am, but it's all for fun.
no, tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired this conversation.
Yeah, so I listen to JP shows, and hi JP.
Hiya.
I listen to a lot of his interviews and I find them quite interesting, and I just started to listen to yours recently actually. And yeah, about myself, well, I'm from England originally, as you'll probably guess by my accent, but I was born close to near where JP lives at the moment. I was born in Yorkshire. 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, I think, I moved over to New York, and for a work move, it was a temporary move at that time. Cut long story short, an opportunity came to stay, so I decided to do that. And as a result, my company moved me to Dallas, Texas, which is where I live today.
Oh, no.
And so, yeah. And, so this conversation sparked off from, I think it was 2 weeks ago, you guys are talking about Builder's tea, and that you bought a box of tea that said Builder's tea on it, which
Yes.
I have to agree with JP, doesn't exist. So I just...
I'm showing my Americanness.
I love my tea, just like JP does. I mean, I can't start a day without it. I have various cups and tea throughout the day, and I don't know, I just thought for fun, and I'd send you an email about tea. Go.
Well, it's funny because you said something about you never put cream in tea, and I said, you said it's a crime, and I said, well, then I've committed many crimes. Because I put cream in coffee and tea, and I guess that's not allowed.
I'll let JP comment, I think, first. I don't know what he thinks about that, but...
Yeah, I've done all the violations. Everything that you guys said is wrong. I've done it.
Yeah. The worst experience I had, I went to, I think it was a coffee shop. It wasn't Starbucks or anything like that. I asked for tea, and I think they had quite a varied amount. They had some black teas, English breakfast, no Grays. I asked them to not fill it with boiling hot water, which is the temperature of the middle of the sun, which can get really hot. I asked them to leave some at the top, put some milk in there. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, yeah, milk is milk. But instead they took it over to the cappuccino machine and put frothy milk in there. I don't know what that was. And,
they frothed up your tea like a chai or something? Or what?
Yeah. They made it all frothy, and I didn't have the heart to say anything. I just threw it away. And I drink it. I just looked at it and I thought, what have you done? What have you done with it? Oh my God. So I was actually a little bit of shock there. And then another time, they put cream in there. And you don't put cream in tea. You just don't do it. You absolutely don't do it.
Criminal.
I could go on forever, but I'll let you guys chip in.
No, but you did say something. You disagreed with JP originally a little bit. Just a little.
Builders, yeah. So my picture of Builders, because I've worked on a couple of sites when I was, and my brother had as well. He built a large Tesco's. You won't know what Tesco's is, but my brother worked on a large building site when he was a student, and he built one of our large supermarket chain, a huge mega store once, and he worked a lot of builders, and I'd worked with builders here and there, particularly when I lived in England in my home. Builders used to do some of the renovations on it, and the builder's tea is what I think, and JP, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really just how builders, they like strong tea, and they like it sweet. because gives them a kick. So the best way to get stronger tea is actually to put water in it first. And so it's called builder's tea because builders make it, but there's no actual brand called builder's tea.
I found the brand.
It doesn't. But it is really strong. You put hot milk and water in it first, let it sit, then put some sugar in it, drop of milk. Yeah, it's very strong and it tastes great, but I personally just put milk in first. That's my thing. I don't know where that comes from.
I have a question now, and I don't know. I just want everyone's opinion on this. We have someone in the chat room by the name of Anjmes, Anjmes, and she said I sometimes mix.
It's a he. It's Anthony James.
Okay. And sometimes I mix tea and coffee when I'm half asleep and still drink it. What do you think about tea and coffee together?
Oh, how dreadful.
Yeah.
I really couldn't imagine that. This sounds awful.
You probably shouldn't tell anybody that outside of the story.
It sounds almost as much of a crime as putting cream in.
No, it's worse. It's like that when you start, here's even worse, when somebody stirs your cup of tea with the spoon that they used for the coffee.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these are subtleties, but these are first world problems, I know, but, you know.
Listen, how are you going to solve the problems if someone messes up your tea for the day?
Yeah, and doesn't even know it.
Be able to think with clarity. And if you don't, I was in such a mood for a good cup of coffee, and I'm sorry, this is the way I was raised. We raised with coffee and espressos and all that stuff, and so I was all excited. Someone made tea. I ran downstairs and I put cream in it, of course, me with the cream, and the cream was curdled. It threw out my whole day. It was the worst. That was the end of it. And I couldn't, you can't work on anything else because that's something that kind of grounds you or something. I don't know any other way to express it.
So I think the thing that you have to do is to brew the tea correctly. So it has to be hot enough. And one of the mistakes people make is by putting water that's too cold in. Yeah. And I think what improves the tea is by brewing it in a teapot rather than a mug. And I use an insulated teapot, which keeps the water hotter for longer. So if you don't have it brewed above maybe 90 degrees centigrade, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but just a few degrees below boiling for at least 3 or 4 minutes, it's not going to taste proper at all.
You keep the tea bags in there? You leave them in?
I leave the tea bags in the teapot.
Take them out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? You guys might know the answer to this. The guy I worked with about 3 months ago gave me what he thought was the history. So why is there a preference? I know there's a preference to put in the hot water first, and then there's some people prefer milk first. And he said to me, and you, I think it might be Nick or JP, maybe Nick may know, he said, the reason why we have historically put milk first is because we used to drink out of china cups, and if you just put hot water in a china cup, it'd crack. So you'd put the milk in first with the tea bag, and so it'd be a cool base on which to pour the water. And I didn't think that was accurate really, but I thought it was really good. I could believe it. But
hang on.
Why do you guys think we put milk in first? Is it just a preference thing?
No, I think that you're absolutely right. It's about curdling the milk. It's about cracking the cups. It's about getting it's all alchemy, and it's all lab. If you were making a concoction in a lab, you'd do the same sort of thing, So you infuse the tea in as hot a water as you can, and the teapot. So the idea of people, if you put the milk in first, you've got to have made the tea first. The tea and the milk have to kind of create separately, brought together. in the famous ceremony, like, so that, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, if you've got a layer of milk in the bottom of the cup, you won't raise the temperature of the cup too quickly, and you won't shock it and crack it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll give him I'll see him again soon, and I'll say exactly. I said he was backed up by yourself when I see him again. I didn't believe him initially, but it sounded plausible to me. So yeah.
So is tea universal? The way it's done in the UK, or is it different according to regions? Do you have like variations?
Well, I think in the past, people would always make tea in a teapot, and it's only fairly recently, probably the last 30 years, where people almost always don't use a teapot. So I guess there's a few crackpots like me that use teapots. And, maybe 10-20% of people who do. I think the rest of the people make it in a cup. So you get a mug, put a tea bag in the bottom of the mug, and then you make the tea in the mug. But that never used to happen. You used to just use tea leaves. My mother would never have bought tea bags. She bought tea leaves, put the tea leaves in the teapot. Then you used to have to use a strainer to pour the tea through, or else you'd end up with a cup full of tea leaves, which is terrible because you'd drink the cup of tea and get a mouthful of tea leaves. And that was the most disgusting thing ever. So that, I guess, was normal 30, 40, 50 years ago. Tea bags are a pretty recent innovation. So the way in which people have started making tea, the divergence of ways, putting milk in with the tea bag and all this sort of thing, is pretty modern. And I think, this purity of making tea has all got tainted. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, do you guys drink? Okay, I'll call it chai tea. You can obviously guess my name's. I've got Indian heritage. Do you guys have chai tea often? Do you guys?
I do.
love chai.
I have it very often. That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you just described, Nick, is what my mum and my mother and my grandmother used to do, but they never use a teapot. They used to use a pan. So when when you make traditional, very milky, because Indian chai tea is predominantly milk, you use a pan, and they used to use loose tea leaves. And how you make it is, I don't know why they used to do this, but it tastes wonderful, is the masala my mum used to make by hand. And my aunt still does. And actually, when I come to the UK, on my various visits during the year, I actually grab a bottle full from my aunt now, and my mum and my sister, who then just give me a whole load of it, and I bring it over and I just consume it over the rest of the year. But how they make it, it's really just milk. They boil milk in a pan. They add the tea leaves into there. They add the sugar into there. It's always a sugar. And lots of masala powder, which is really ground up, cardamom and things like that.
Yeah, the cardamom, that's what I remember.
Yeah, and they add a couple of leaves on there. Sometimes they throw the cardamom in a whole, just like float around. And then they boil it, stir it while they boil it until it overflows. Then they cool it down a little bit. And this is the bit I didn't quite understand. I've never still understood it. They boil it again. And then they let it sit. She used to let it sit. And just for a little while, and then she used to pour that. It was still really hot. Pour it through a strainer into your teacup. And there was very, very little water in it, actually. It was, I would say, 80% milk. And that's how my mother and my grandmother and my aunts used to make masala tea traditionally. But now, I have to be honest, she uses tea bags. So she still uses the pan. She still boils it to death twice, and still puts the sugar in it, and still puts the masala powder in it, cardamom leaves, and everything else. But she uses tea bags now. So, but I use tea bags all the time because it's an easier way of doing it. But I don't think I have the patience for that. It's only because she used to make it for the family. As we feel now in modern day life, you can't really use a teapot unless you're going to keep that tea for the day. My mother used to make it for everyone. So, a large pan worked for everyone because after everyone had it, there'd be maybe half a pan left. And she'd just reheat it later and give it to you.
Yeah.
So,
but it actually works because of the spices.
Really nice.
Yeah, it actually kind of gets richer in flavor because the spices
Absolutely.
kind of blend in. And I have a friend from India, and when she made the masala tea for me, and I was like, what in the world did you add to that? It was delicious. It was really, really good.
I don't know if these P and Nick were familiar with this, but if you have a curry, if you make a Indian curry at home or you take it home from the restaurant, you have it the next day. It tastes better than it was fresh.
Yeah.
Because everything's infused. Yeah. And so it works the same way, kind of. One of my friends in Dallas, by the way, didn't have a kettle when I asked her for a cup of tea, and she did. I said, can I have tea, please? She said, yeah. And they had some Lipton, which isn't really tea, it's just dirty water. And so I said, oh yeah, I'll have that then. And then
have some dirty water.
I was looking around thinking, I don't really see a kettle, and she microwaved the water.
No! What else can there be?
And I was watching her make the tea, Lipton of all things, and she microwaved the water.
Oh, yeah.
And then she put some sugar in and a bit of milk on the top, and I just went, I drank that because she was my friend. And I said, do you have a kettle? She goes, no. I said, she goes, what do I want a kettle for? I said, well, to boil water. I said, oh, right. So anyway, she has a kettle now. She has a kettle with one of those, those inserts where you can put a tea bag in there. And you can leave it in a kettle, in an electric kettle. She has one of those. She's gone from not having one to this futuristic blue illuminated kettle. So yeah, it's great tea. It's great tea.
Vanessa says nuking water for tea isn't killing, it's murdering it.
So coffee drinkers only, so they're percolators and stuff, but when you talk about how you make tea, they just didn't have a clue. I had no idea.
It destroys the flavor, doesn't it? If you have the wrong temperature. Yeah. Too hot, it makes it bitter. Too cold, it just doesn't process right at all. You don't get flavor.
I went to a supermarket when I first moved there because I needed to buy a kettle. First thing I really wanted to buy. And I asked the guy, and I think it was a Walmart, and asked him, do you have a kettle? And he looked at me like I was speaking Chinese. He didn't have a clue what I was saying. He just stared at me. He said, what? I said, a kettle. And, what's that? I said, you boil water in it? Kettle? And he said, well, come with me. And I followed him to the electrical section again. And he pointed to this lower shelf. And there was a kettle there, and he pointed to it, and he said, is that a kettle? I said, yeah, that's a kettle. and it was the only one they had, so I bought it. And I actually threw it away 2 years ago. It lasted me quite a while, so it was quite good.
We have someone in the chat room. Mark is such, I guess he says, I only drink tea with rum or guarana. I wonder what kind of tea that is.
Oh. Fairly alcoholic.
Is that a different kind of tea? But, just switches on.
Dizziac, it sounds like.
I mean, I think it's interesting to see when people drink tea, I think it's quite common for having it as an evening drink because people think that actually it doesn't keep them awake at night, just the same as coffee would. But I think the other interesting thing are these huge number of different infusions like mint tea, chamomile tea, lots of different fruit teas. I went through a period of drinking fruit teas, but really, unless you've got very, very good sense of smell, actually, I think the taste doesn't really taste very much of the flavour, and they're kind of rather just disappointing. You've got this lovely sounding thing, mango tea. Actually, when you make it, it's really terrible. I don't know whether it's because I've worked in a lab for a long time, but my sense of smell is not very good. So I just can't cope with it, because it sounds like it should be really nice, and it's just not. It's just terrible.
Some of the fruity teas that, the herbal teas, I know they're good for you, but I just don't think about them as something that I want to have.
We're all in the same boat on that one. Well, I'm in that boat.
Yeah, it's not tea to me. It's almost like, don't put the word tea behind it, because it kind of throws me off. And I'm looking for something a little bit, more robust. And I don't mind like something like an herbal drink or whatever, and with ice, and it's, in the summertime it's really nice, but I can't do that. Yeah.
I think, you're talking about your family coming from India, and in Britain we've got a long tradition of domination of India. So people I think that most of our tea comes from there. I went to Africa about 25 years ago, and they were saying in Africa that actually most of our tea comes from there. Places like Kenya. So I think actually, we think of it as a sort of an Indian tradition, but really we're drinking African stuff here. I don't know whether that's really
Chinese.
true.
Bigger ears.
Oh, actually,
A lot of tea comes from China, and there's so many different types of tea that if you really, when I worked in a tea shop, the way that they the tea leaves were prepared differently. Some of them were even aged, and some of them were rolled in a certain way. And you have like these little bird's nests. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they're elegant, and they're wrapped, and they actually look like a tiny little bird's nest. And then you have pu'er tea. There's all different beautiful teas. Most of them it's the art of tea that comes from China and Africa, and some of the older civilizations have learned that tea has value, and it's very highly respected. And the tea ceremonies, of course, something that were brought in because it's such an integral part of relaxation. It helps people to just feel good, and be able to do the things that they need to do, and have that moment where they can, communicate, and it's not always food. For some people it's this, hot drink, that kind of pulls people together and brings up discussions and all sorts of things.
To go back on what you were saying, Nick, on when you said Africa, it's interesting because Indian community, I'm first generation born in Yorkshire, but the Indian community in England actually came from Africa. So yeah, they all did. The people don't really realize this, is that the Indian community in the 50s and 60s, my parents came in, I think, early 60s. And the entire generation from my parents and my grandparents, all of them came from Africa. Because the migration was from India to Africa, and that was into Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, places like that. And that's where actually one of my uncles was born, so they actually lived there for a very, very long time. And that was the British Empire. And so the Indian community that you know of today that, had all the corner shops in the past, nobody came from India actually. They all, I would say 90% came from Africa. So they came from Africa and then settled in the UK, and that's pretty much my parents' and grandparents' generation. Migrated to England, or the United Kingdom, or predominantly England, from Africa, from African countries, not from India. The migration from India has really been in recent decades, not in the time where, people like myself were born. So that's the influence of the tea and teas that they like, but don't they like, as well as influence from Africa. So I think my mother used to like. I think you mentioned this weeks ago. I saw PG Tips for the first time when my mother used to drink it, and I can't stand PG Tips. Oh my god, I can't stand it. And after that, I got Tetley tea, which is has a northern institute to it, and then I drink Yorkshire tea. I drink Yorkshire Gold tea now, which is I have a packet of about 100 Tetley tea and Yorkshire Gold tea box, which every time I go home I stock up on those because they're my favourite. But yeah, that's interesting when you say the tea comes from Africa, because it does. But the generation that my parents and grandparents, they moved from India to Africa and lived there for a long time, and then they all came when they were invited over after the empire was falling. They came to England, and some came to the US. So it was I couldn't tell you the split, but I've met many Indian, Pakistani Indian sort of community in Dallas and New York area, who also did the same migratory path, if you like. They came from Africa, not necessarily India itself, but although a lot of South Indians came directly to the US from South India. No, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot of history behind it.
Yep.
A lot of the early trades, merchants, that was some of the products that tea was definitely included in trading. And I think in some ways tea was equivalent to a form of money in trade. If you start to really look at the older history of it. And of course, the conflict of the U.S. and the breaking away of the U.S. had to do with a tea tax. The people were dependent on tea, and probably was the influence of the conversion of tea into coffee. We started drinking coffee instead as a form of rebellion. But
what's your favorite brand? What do you like? What do you guys like now? Or have you moved from something to another brand type? English breakfast, or Earl Grey's, or Tetley, or PG, or whatever.
I always liked Earl Grey. I mean, I do like that lavender undertone to it. It's very nice. But sometimes I'll just try all different ones. And I like the Twinings brand. I don't know if that's considered good or bad, but it's very common out here. No laughing, Nick.
Well, that's definitely not Builder's tea. So,
well, I found the brand. I thought, hey, look, it's Score. Look what I found. And no, JP was like, what? What is that? It says it on the box.
Which store did you get that from? Which store did you get?
I think it was Market Basket. Just like a regular local grocery store.
I'm going to look out for it in some stores and see if I can find it.
I'm going to see if I can find the Builder's Tea brand to post it somewhere. I'm having trouble getting into the chat today for some reason. So otherwise I want to say hi to everybody out there. But it's a brand that says Builder's Tea on it. What's really funny, it has that yellow tape that you use like if someone gets murdered.
What happens to you after you drink it?
They want you to, lock off the perimeters with the yellow tape, and they've got that on the tea. Of course, it was, that drew me in right away.
But that's fantastic. I mean, they've taken probably a tea bag that cost $0.01, and they're selling it for like 10 cents. I mean, this is a fantastic way to grab vast amounts of money from you for really zero value.
Wizard from the Universe said this is the Andronicus Tea Festival right now, or either that or they want us to have an Andronicus Tea Festival. So many reasons to celebrate. Yeah.
I've been given an order by a friend who I'm seeing, who used to live in Oxford, but she's Mexican, from Mexico, lived in San Diego, studied in Oxford, now she lives in Rio. And she's another one of those, who got obsessed, who loved tea when she moved to the UK for a long time. And she's asked me to get her M&S Gold, pack boxes of it, so I can take to her when I go visit at Christmas. So this trend just goes everywhere. Everyone's asking for tea. If they know you're going somewhere where they can get the tea that they like, they'd ask you to ship it over like a tea mule and take it over to them. It's quite funny.
Well, at least you don't have.
I know that. Oh, go ahead, JP.
I was just going to make the comment that at least you don't have to hide it into body cavities. But anyway, please, Jessica.
that you need that yellow tape again from the builder's package.
Oh, really? That's not what I will say. I'll smell very fragrant, but I'm not sure about anything else.
They're letting us know something, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
There it is. A Cafe Racer put it into the chat if you want to see the packaging. It's black and has the yellow and, yeah, it's fun. Builder's tea, and I think it puts the British flag on there too. Tricked all of us. What do we know? We're American.
I'm going to keep an eye out for that one. I reckon I will see it somewhere in one of the supermarkets around.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for it. And, you know, for whatever reason, it's all fun. And we are coming close to the end of the show, and I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. And also, I'm asking Ches to repost. We're having a Zoom meeting afterwards for all the Andronicus, all those followers of Andronicus. And anyone wants to join and say hello and meet and greet, there'll be a link in the chat room. So, well, we start off with some, difficult news today, lots of information, but let's take a break and then we can reconvene by next week. But join us after the show, or the after party if you want to call it that. Thanks, Raj, for joining us. Thanks, Nick and JP. Wonderful insight, and also everyone in the chat room is adding to their story. All different variations of tea, coffee, and what have you. Someone wants to talk about cider next week. No, we might be up for that one.
But there isn't any roar when the clock strikes 4. Everything stops for tea.